So what are you drinking tonight, Aaron, for everybody that's watching?
I got a Moscow Mule minus the tin cup, but if I hold it up like that, well, I thought I had a tin cup, but I couldn't find it. So,
Well, I'm back on my Glenlivet Founders Reserve because I needed something with some, with some heft,
kick.
some energy, some power.
Yes, sir.
So, uh, funny thing about this week, because Aaron and I were talking offline, and I was telling him about my week, and this is, I have a really, by pretty much any objective measurement, I have a really fantastic career. I've done a lot, I've accomplished a lot, and I still do a lot, and I'm a known quantity and well respected in my field, and all of that's good, but I want to say for like maybe about the last 10 years, I haven't been in it emotionally. I don't really, I'm not really trying to cross thresholds anymore here. I'm just really kind of marking time because my heart's not here.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Aaron pretty much at the last minute because, like I said, I've been traveling all week. And so I said, what are we going to talk about? And I had this idea, and I said, I want to talk about vision, dreams, plans, and goals. And Aaron said, great, because
I was thinking about like how to prosper in terms of, and here's what I was thinking specifically, Derrick, because, we talk about the law of attraction. We talk about in the church, we talked about sowing and reaping, but most of that boils down to positive thinking without the practical applications of it that can actually cause you to be successful. So what I was thinking about was strategy, the stuff you mentioned that gets missed. Sometimes, we just talk about law of attraction or positive thinking and think that'll get the job done. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. So I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. But we were very much in sync.
Yep. I mean, it was serendipitous and synergistic. I mean, and I love that. There's Hannibal. What was the guy, the leader of the A team?
Yeah, Hannibal.
Yeah, he used to always say, he take a puff on a cigar and say, "I love it when a plan comes together."
Yeah.
And that's like one of my favorite lines. So that's what this is. It's like a plan coming together.
Yeah.
But and the reason, there's another reason why I brought this up, because I really feel this in my spirit, that there are people that are going through this right now. They've had visions, they've had dreams, they've had plans, they've had goals, and things have happened. Life gets in the way. Things happen. Life throws curveballs. I mean, it's like, here's the thing, we go through life looking for the big meaty fastball. Or we look for that that wide open crossing route. I mean, where you beat the corner, right? And it's nothing but you and daylight between, or nothing but daylight between you and the goalpost, and your quarterback hits you right on the hands. And sometimes you get that. Sometimes, but most of the time you don't. Most of the time, life throws curveballs, life throws changeups, life throws those passes where if you don't get the slam dunk leap and the Odell Beckham Jr. grab, to haul the pass down with one hand, if you don't get the precise alley-oop when you're going to dunk the basketball. I can go with all kinds of sports analogies here, but if you don't get it, that's what normally happens in life. Right. The perfect situation, the perfect scenario, the perfect circumstance is not always there. So I know, and I feel this in my spirit, because I feel this, man, I'm having a preaching moment here, but bear with me. I feel this in my spirit because I know that there are people that are going through this right now. They're wondering, why isn't what I want to do working out for me? Why aren't things happening for me the way I always thought that they would? Why is it that I'm years behind in my goal? I'm way afield of my plans, and my dreams just seem to, they keep coming, they haunt me, but I just can't connect. And you said something too about law of attraction without corresponding action.
Right.
Right. And it's like having a car that has, I think about like Chrysler is doing this crazy stuff now. They have this engine called the Hellcat. And it's like anywhere between 700 and 800 horsepower, and they're putting it in everything. I mean, there's a Dodge Ram pickup, for Christ's sake, man, with a Hellcat motor in it. There's a Jeep Grand Cherokee. There's a Dodge Durango that have Hellcat motors in it. It's like they're taking this motor and putting in everything that they could think of. Well, imagine if you have a Hellcat powered Challenger that has no wheels. You got gas. Mm-hmm. You got everything, but there's absolutely nothing that helps to get that power to the ground.
Right.
And that's where some of us are. I know right now, y'all, that's where I am. I've got a highly tuned, Mercedes AMG Formula One motor that's revving at 15,000 RPM. It is hot to go, but I got no wheels. And so that's where I am. That's my intro.
So my thoughts are this, right? So we have to look at this holistically. And here's what I mean. If you don't have a dream, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have something that inspires you, if you don't have the belief that you can accomplish it, you probably aren't gonna, right? Yep. I don't remember who it was that said, whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you're right.
Yep, Henry Ford.
Yeah, based on your thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So that has to be in place. You have to challenge your limiting beliefs. You have to believe that you can do better. You have to have the emotional inspiration about it, which is what I hear you saying. I've been doing great in this career, but the inspiration is gone.
Yeah.
I'm not emotionally invested. So that's inspiration, right?
Yep.
So you got to have that. That absolutely has to be there. But there's a difference between a dream and a fantasy.
Come on, man.
And the difference, and this kicks my butt every time, Derrick. So the difference between a dream and a fantasy is, what are you doing in the real world, action-wise, to bring what you're thinking about to pass? If you are not taking action right now to change and move towards your dream, then it's not a dream, it's just a fantasy.
It's a fantasy.
Fantasies never happen. So I'll give you a perfect example. If I want to be an author, and I have forever had people tell me, you need to write books. Back when we were in the Christian movement, people prophesying, you're going to write books and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Had someone recently tell me, you could be published by, all these big publishers and whatever. But if I'm not writing, like I could sit there and dream all day long, I'm going to be an author. I'm going to be an author. I'm going to be an author. Someday I'll write books. Someday I'll write books. Someday I'll write books. And that's true. That's how I think. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not sitting down at the typewriter or talk to text or doing something in this real world to bring a book into manifestation, I'm just dreaming. So,
I mean, and honestly, you're not even dreaming. You said it right. You're fantasizing.
Fantasizing. Yes, I'm fantasizing. So the difference, to highlight what I was saying, the difference between a fantasy and a dream is a dream you're putting real effort towards. You're putting some blood, sweat, and tears towards. You're putting some work towards. You have something to show for it, right?
Yep.
If you don't do that, if you're just, thinking I'm putting it out to the universe, I'm praying about it, I'm believing God for it, and you're not doing anything, like you said, Derrick, corresponding action, anything in the real world, you will never, ever, 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 ever bring it to pass. Nope. And that's the biggest gap I see for people between what is taught typically in churches, spiritual communities, law of attraction communities, positive thinking communities, and getting stuff done. Tony Robbins, you know, he's great because in his book, his early books, you know, he says nothing will change until you take powerful, congruent action in the real world towards changing it.
Yep.
And then he kind of reverse engineers it. What prevents us from taking powerful, congruent action towards changing our lives? It's our internal states of thinking and being that prevent that. And so then he works at that level to adjust that. But at the end of the day, if we're not activating our dreams with strategy, so it's another thing I got from Tony Robbins, right? A strategy is a step-by-step plan to get to where you want to be. And he compares it to a recipe, you know.
Yep.
If you're going to cook something, you have to have the right ingredients and the right amount put in at the right time in order to produce the result. So a recipe is a strategy. So the missing piece for most people is they don't have a good recipe to get where they want to go in terms of real life, real world action to make their dreams a reality.
And, you know, one of the things that I've learned is that a goal is a dream with a deadline.
Ooh.
I mean,
Love that.
if you don't create a plan that gives a stepwise approach, or not even, it may not need to be a stepwise approach, because that stepwise approaches are more like protocols. It could be a heuristic, right? That it's a overarching series of concepts, that not necessarily a congruent plan, but you have some kind of roadmap from here to there. And so to your point, that's absolutely true. Many of us fail because we don't plan. And I tell this to people all the time. I say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
You know, so but I think that there's something a little bit more to that, right? And I want to really unpack this, because, you know, you and I both came out of Word of Faith, right? Name it and claim it, blab it and grab it, you know, say it and spray it, whatever. You know, it was all of that. And I say this all the time concerning the law of attraction, because I've distilled it to this, that whatever you project, you can expect, right? But mere words have power. Words have creative power. Words are containers of potential.
Right.
But if all you're doing is speaking words, but not actually sitting down to say, okay, how am I going to get there? I don't have a plan. I don't have any steps. I don't have a heuristic. I don't have anything that's moving me in that direction and see, here's the other thing too about a plan, right? Is that a plan, once made, holds you accountable to what you're doing. See, I'm going to tell you something. People get really caught up about accountability, and this is big in Christian circles. You got to be accountable to your man to God. You got to be accountable to the church. You got to be accountable to Jesus. You got to be accountable. But I'm going to tell you something. If you have no accountability to that person you face,
come on, man,
when you put that toothbrush in your mouth in the morning, which I hope you put your toothbrush in your mouth in the morning. But if you know, the man in the mirror is what I'm saying. I'm trying to be cute here. But the man in the mirror, if you're not accountable to yourself, and so this is something that I've been doing lately. I used to be very meticulous about journaling. And I write things down, because once I write it down, I have some traceability. I can go back to what I wrote, and I can now say it. I can speak it to myself. But speaking it to myself is not enough. I need to see, you mentioned Tony Robbins, and I love Tony Robbins. You know, he is a guy that really got me motivated early on in my career. again, what Tony Robbins talks about is, concise action.
Right.
So I write this down, and so I can go back and I can read it to myself. I can speak it aloud to myself. But I also say two things. One, this is what I need to do today, what I need to do in this moment to move the needle toward my goal. And there's something else that a lot of people don't do, is that people are afraid to visualize their end state. I mean, and watch this. This is how, the difference between fear and faith, right? Because somebody can get sick, they can get cancer, and they'll see themselves dead. That's easy. It's easy to just give up.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to see yourself not just healed, but in a position where the cancer never returns.
Right.
That you're taking steps in with your health, with your mental well-being, with your spiritual well-being, that you don't invoke this again. Right. See, and in order to get there, you listen, nobody gets healed by accident. Y'all write that down. You don't get healed by accident, and you don't prosper by accident. Yeah. I've been listening to audiobooks about Steve Jobs lately. And this is a guy, by every account, Steve Jobs was a world-class prick.
Yep.
By every account. But what made him a prick was that for him, failure was not an option. And if his success hinged on someone else's actions, baby girl, baby boy, your shit better be A1 together.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he was going to call you out. So the thing is that Steve Jobs demanded that people were not so much accountable to him, but they were accountable to his vision, because his vision to him was everything. That was like breathing. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to shut up here because I've said a lot, but until your vision becomes like breathing, you can fully expect that vision to pass you by. I mean, until you get to the point where what you do to move your dream, move your vision, move yourself toward your vision, until you get to that point where it's autonomic. See, here's the thing. If you have to think about it, you might work it out. But the thing is that thinking often will lead to analysis paralysis. If you had to think about breathing, if you had to think about digestion, if you had to think about sweating, if you had to think about any of these things, how you move your fingers, if you have to think about that, you would just freeze, because all the brain power that it takes to pull all of that together would just cause you to lock up. I mean, you would have IO error, what we call in the computer world. You'd halt and catch fire, right? But if you have something autonomous going on, like your breathing, like your digestion, like your lymph, all of those things, your sweat, and all of that, if you have some, your vision needs to be so imbued in your being that it's like breathing. Right. And if it's not, you can pretty much expect that it will not happen.
Yeah. So this is how do I start this? So our problem, the whole reason, the reason, all right, I'm going to say this. The reason you don't have today, and I'm speaking generally, you understood, right?
Yep.
The reason you don't have today what you're dreaming about is the bottom line. The bottom line is there is a part of you that does not want to.
Yep.
There is a part of you that does not want it. It's what we call in therapy an objecting part. And I've experienced this. I'm still working through this. Um, so as a pastor, I loved teaching. I loved sharing information. I loved learning. I loved being there for people, giving to people, supporting people, all that stuff that goes into ministry. I loved.
Mm-hmm.
What I hated about ministry was the fishbowl I lived in,
Mm.
the fishbowl my kids were living in, the constant criticism, because you always have that, those people you can say 95% what you preach on a Sunday morning, they agree with.
Mm.
But that 5% that they didn't agree with, or they didn't like your tie. I had a guy chew me out one time because I had a fashion label on my shirt.
Oh my God.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know.
And I got and so 95% of what I preach they agree with. 5% they didn't agree with. So they come up and they're in your face about that 5%. They're
Yep.
leaving the church over the 5%. And here's what I've always said, Derrick, you're not a real leader until you can lead volunteers. You're not a real leader if you're in the military and you have a rank. You're not a real leader if you're a boss and you're signing the paycheck.
Yep.
You're a real leader when you can get people to work together on a project when they are completely voluntarily doing it. Now, if you can do that, you can be successful in military and business and all the other stuff. You're not a real leader if you have to pull the I'm the boss card. Like I would tell people, if I have to say this is what we're doing because I'm the pastor and I said so, I already lost the battle.
Mm-hmm.
I already lost.
Yep.
So I'll never pull that card because I'll introspect and say, okay, what happened that I lost people before it got to this point, right?
Yep.
But having said that, it's hard to get people to work together, to cooperate. And then you have this, we got to love each other and stay out of strife and all that other stuff that we have.
Yeah.
You have those frames on top of it. That's mission impossible, dude. I mean, that's why I laugh. I laugh hysterically at conspiracy theories, especially wide-ranging ones. Because anybody that believes a conspiracy theory on a big basis has never tried to get 10 people to work on a project that they weren't paid for or they didn't have a penalty for if they didn't accomplish it.
Yep.
People just don't work together that well. Like, I will tell conspiracy theorists, you got more faith in humanity than I will ever have.
It's another one. I got to throw this one at you real quick. That unless you can sell somebody something they already have, you can't sell anybody anything.
There you go. So it's our personal power of influence or whatever, right?
Yep.
So I hated the leading part of it. I hated the business part of ministry. I hated the fishbowl part of ministry. And I got to the point that I hated it so much that I just wanted to be a regular dude for a while. I just wanted to work a 9-to-5 job, go out and have beers with my friends, and not worry about what everybody's saying about me or thinking about me, and give my kids a normal life where they're not in the fishbowl. So now translate that to doing stuff on YouTube, doing stuff like these live videos, trying in some way, shape, or form to become a thought leader, which I want to do, but my objecting parts are like, oh no, we don't want to go back into that fishbowl. We don't want to grow the church. I stopped growing the church. I stopped growing the church. I knew how to grow the church. I stopped it because I felt phony. And I knew to continue it, I would have to be phony. So I would tell people, let's be content with the numbers that we have, because that's what I'm comfortable doing. It's not that I don't have the capacity to grow it bigger. It's that if I grow it bigger, it's just going to be more of this negative side for me that I don't want. So the reason we don't have oftentimes the visions and the dreams that we say we want to have, is because there are parts of us that see the negative side to it, or the side to it that we don't want, and we haven't bought into it, right?
Yep.
So when you're talking about making something your dream, your vision, what you breathe, then you have no objecting. There's no part of me that objects to breathing.
Bingo.
So here's the thing about visualizing the end result. When you begin to visualize the end result, all those objecting parts will speak up. And you have to listen to those. And you have to work through those, and you have to adjust those. One of the things we do in therapy, if somebody comes with a problem that they've been doing over and over and over again, doesn't matter what the problem is, I will try to get them to visualize themselves without the problem, to get in touch with the parts of them that object to not having the problem.
Hmm.
And when they can get in touch with the parts of them that object to not having the problem, then they can find out why they still have the problem.
Wow.
That makes sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So
You know,
it comes back to that internal work, you know?
Go
Sorry.
ahead, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
It comes back to that internal work. When you do that internal work, you look at what's preventing you from actually taking action. What's preventing you actually from taking action is a part that objects to the outcome.
Yep.
And that part may have an important say. It may have an important part to play. You may have to adapt and adjust your dreams so that you can be congruent, so that all your values can be honored in what you're trying to do. I value to a certain degree my privacy. I value to a certain degree my kids being able to grow up without being criticized for every little thing that they do. And that became more and more important as they became older. And I didn't want to be in the ministry anymore. I didn't want to pastor anymore. I mean, yeah, there was the deconstruction piece, but there was also this piece of, I don't want this anymore. And so rather than trying to convince those objecting parts, oh, no, you need to want this. We've got to want this. We're not going to be successful if we don't want this. We're going to fail God. We're going to be judged because we didn't, follow through with our calling. No, I listened to those objecting parts and said, you know what? You're right. We don't want this crap right now in our lives. So we are going to adjust and have a different dream now that we can be fully invested in.
Exactly. And that, let me say this, because this was always my excuse. I would do this. I'm just too busy. I don't have time. My work is so demanding.
Okay, you're talking to me right now. You're talking to me. Go ahead.
No, listen, I'm making excuses for all of this because, like, I'm gonna give you an example. Like, because after we finish up here, I'm going to get with Matt and Katie and Keith, and we're gonna record an episode of the Heretic Happy Hour. We were supposed to record it on Monday, but I was in Chicago, and I was, I was tied up. I wasn't going to be able to make it. Now, here's the thing: I could have pushed back on my colleagues and my employer. I could have said, I have an obligation at this time. This is something that it's a standing obligation that I have, and I have to honor this. I could have done that, but I didn't. I asked my colleagues in the podcast, my co-hosts on the podcast, if they could accommodate my schedule. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I asked them to do some of the heavy lifting for me, and I realized, and Katie, Matt, and Keith, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I should have pushed back, because this is something that we've contracted to do, right? So as a result, we're shooting this 4 days later, right? And I say this all the time. I say, if I can get to the point where I'm not working weekends, or if I can get to the point where I'm not trying to work with my colleagues in India, Southeast Asia, all these excuses, right? Because that's what they are. And that's what I mean by breathing, right? In all of these circumstances, in all of these situations, I don't say to my body, look, guys, we're going to have to put the breathing on hold for a minute. Right. I don't say to my belly, we're going to have to put digestion on hold because I got this deliverable. You follow what I'm saying? And as long as we are in that trap, because, and you said it, Aaron, you nailed it. I swear, man, I learned so much in real time when we do this. You were saying that you don't get to your end state, not because of circumstances, not because of situations, not because of people. It's because of you. You choose. And so what happens is that we choose to allow things to have power to impede our dreams. That's a choice. And so I made up my mind this week that I'm not going to let that happen again. That because my heart is to be in a position where I write and speak for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I know enough, that I can articulate enough, that I can actually earn my bones doing this. But I don't, because I have made myself beholden to what I do, to the point where I will place that over my dream. And in doing that, it's like putting something over my nostrils. I'm saying that I'm not going to breathe through my nose for whatever reason. And the thing is that when I do that, if you listen to my voice, it sounded ridiculous. And if you looked at me on the screen, you say, that looks ridiculous. Well, yes, it does sound ridiculous. And it does look ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. Nobody goes through life holding their nose and talking. Even voiceover artists figure out how to talk like that without the added physical histrionics. Mm-hmm. So I realized this week, and I wrote it down, that I will no longer allow anything to impede the progress of my dream. Mm. I've made up my mind that, and listen, I did some things like, if you know how I deal with social media, I post a lot of stuff on social media. I haven't posted a lot. I haven't been on social media a lot. You know, I posted some pictures, but that's about it. I haven't been engaging with people. And one of the things that I realize is that I think that social media is a way for me to project my voice. It's a way for me to amplify what I'm saying, but it's also a time consumer.
Yeah.
And it means that the time that I spend there, I could be spending working on advancing my dreams, my goals, my plans. And so I said, that is going to stop. So yeah, this week was really, it put some things in a very stark relief for me.
Yeah, I can tell. I would say that people fail because three reasons I would say for failure. The first reason is not putting enough time into figuring out what you really want. Like asking yourself the question, is this what I really want, or is this what I feel pressure to get? Is this what I think society thinks I should be? Is this what my family wanted for me? Is this what part of me wants, but part of me objects to?
Or what you feel comfortable doing?
Yeah. So Jim Carrey is a perfect example of this. Jim Carrey, when he was trying to get into the Hollywood business, nobody would, he's getting rejections like everybody, when they're first trying to break in. And he was working, these success principles, law of attraction principles. I remember reading about him writing a check for $7 million, putting on his, wall or refrigerator or something. And going out and shouting at Hollywood, getting out of his car and shouting over Hollywood. Everybody wants to work with me. I have contracts. I'm in demand, all this stuff. And he fulfilled all of that. So he was completely congruent, this is absolutely what I want.
Yep.
And then when he got it, he realized this wasn't what I wanted at all.
How about that?
And he says that, this did not bring me the fulfillment. This did not bring me the, whatever it was that he was looking for. He just thought this would be a means to that end.
Hmm.
And when he got there, he realized, no, it wasn't a means to the end. So now we need to back up and reassess. So I'm a big advocate for taking your time to really finding out what it is that you want. What is it that you're really after? And separating the means from the end. So the questioning would go like this as a life coach,
Hmm.
questioning would go like this. We'll just take you for an example because it's
Go
easy,
right
right?
ahead, brother.
So you want to make your living writing um, and speaking. All right. If you were writing and speaking, and that was your life,
Hmm.
what would that give you that is even more important to you than the writing and the speaking itself? Because that question forces you to think about what you really value and what you're really after.
Yep.
Is this a means to the end, and will it get me what it is that I'm hoping they'll get? So number one, taking your time working through those objecting parts. Is this really what I want? Like Aladdin and the three wishes. You only have three wishes. You may have 1,000 in your mind, but at the end of the day, you can only ask for three. So you've got to filter through all those other wishes and make sure that you're asking for the right wish, right?
Hmm.
So it would behoove you well to say, Jeannie, I will get back to you in a year. I'm speaking hyperbolically, but you get.
Right. Yep.
So the first thing is not really taking the time to really figure out with yourself what it is that you want. The second thing is not having a plan or a strategy, which we've talked about, right?
Yep.
To get to what we want. And then the third thing is, and this is hardly ever talked about, is honestly assessing your resources and channeling those resources in the direction of your dream. Like honestly looking at what do I
Hmm.
have as a resource financially with my gifting and my talent. Uh, for you again to use you and as an example, Derrick, you're an excellent communicator. You have something to say. You have something of value to say. You're saying things that not everybody else is saying, right? So those are resources that you have.
Yep.
If you didn't have those things, if you had stage fright, uh, if you talk like this, then you got to do something about your resources,
Right.
right? But then also, financially, are you and on every level, time. I mean, what I hear you saying was that this week really challenged you to look at what you really want, what you really value, and how you're spending your resources, your time, your talent, your treasure,
Hmm.
right? And then re allocating that. So just to use a financial example to help people, are you taking your money and spending it on a asset, something that's going to continue to make money for you, or are you spending it on a liability, something that you want immediately, but you're not going to get a return on your investment?
Mm.
And being able to think like that, I have, if I come into an inheritance, do I take that inheritance and buy my dream vacation and my boat and the car I always wanted? And then after the vacation, it's over, however many years a boat lasts, it's over. And the car, whatever the life of the car is, and you're done. That's it. It's over. Or do I take my inheritance and do I invest it in a business? Instead of buying a car, do I find somebody that wants to start a landscaping business
Hmm.
and buy them the same price I'd spend on a car, buy them
Mm.
the tools
Equipment.
or
Yeah.
or machinery that they need to start their business. They have the dream, they have the energy, they have the resource, but they don't have the finances. So if I can finance, they don't have the resources financially. If I can provide that for them, then we can create a partnership whereby then I'm getting a return on my investment off of labor that I'm not even doing. I'm just getting a return off of what I spent.
Yep.
And so looking at your resources, honestly assessing them, and then allocating them in a direction that will allow you to achieve your long-term goals.
Yep.
And the failure to do those three things, I think, is probably the root of most failure. Even though I don't think failure really exists. You
No.
can always adapt, you can always overcome, you can always reassess and try again, but you get what I'm saying.
Yep. You know, you had talked about what's what's in your inventory, your personal inventory.
Right.
And there's a Bible story about that, the widow and the oil, you know,
Yeah.
that she basically, you know, her husband died in debt. And so she goes to Elisha and says, "Hey, listen, my husband studied under you. He gave his all to you. And now we're broken, about to be sold into slavery."
Mm-hmm.
And so Elisha says, "Well, what do you have in your house?" And she said, "Well, the only thing I have of value is this little cruse of oil." And he says, "Well, I'll tell you what, you go, everybody in your neighborhood, everybody you know, and get a vessel, big, small, whatever." He said, "You get these vessels, you go in your house, you lock the door, and you start pouring the oil." And so she did, right? And then when it was all over and done with, it said that she had enough to pay off her debt and live off the rest. So what is in your inventory? And there is a book that I highly recommend that everybody get. If you haven't got it, if you haven't read it, you need to get it and you need to read it. And the book is called Start with Why by Simon Sinek. That to me is the single most important nonfiction book that I've ever read.
Wow.
I mean, ever, out of any book that, and I'm a voracious reader. I've read thousands of books in my lifetime. But this book talks about two things. It talks about the importance of why and how why relates to everything else using a device called the golden circle. Because a lot of people, we know the who, we know the people, we know the players, we know the what, we know our product, we know our service, we know the where, we know the place, we know the time, we know the how, the methodology, the process, but we don't know why. And understanding this why. So I want to share with you, the listener, the viewer, what my why is. This is the reason I get out of bed every day. So that people will know that they are immeasurably valuable and that they are created to be free, moral, intellectual, and emotional beings. And so everything in my life, with everything that is in me, with every fiber that is in my body, it is to helping people understand that. Because when you understand your freedom, you understand that you have no limitations other than those you place on yourself. So when I get out of bed in the morning, that's why I get out of bed. It's not to go and sell cloud solutions to multi-billion-dollar customers. It's not to help people to transform their business by future-proofing their IT assets. It's not any of that. And it's not even to write books. It's not even to speak. All of it, everything that I do is a means to my why. Awesome. That's it. And so I want to share this. There was a NFL running back, Curtis Martin, that got elected to the Hall of Fame. It was the first ballot after he got out of the NFL. And Curtis Martin made a confession before everyone. He said he never liked football. His mom was a single parent, a night shift nurse, and she got her sons in football to keep them out of gangs. And so he plays football, but he hates it. And he wanted to stop. And his coach said, listen, don't stop because you're good. This can get you into the best high school and get you some recognition. And then when he's in high school, he said in his junior year, he was ready to quit again. And his coach said, listen, don't quit, because this is going to give you a free ticket to college. Yeah. And so he gets to college and he's playing football and he's ready to quit again. And he's like, I don't fucking like football. And his coaches said, listen, don't quit, because you're on your way to the NFL and you will be a multi-million-dollar asset to some team. And he gets into the NFL and he gets connected with Bill Parcells and he's ready to quit again. And Bill Parcells says, listen, don't quit. He said, because there are millions of kids watching you that are looking to do what you've accomplished. And you'll go to the Hall of Fame someday.
Yeah.
And so he did all of this. And he realized that his purpose was to help people realize that growing up in the ghetto was not the end of everything. Mm-hmm. And so he set up a foundation that provides funding for inner city sports, for college scholarships, for trade school tuition, all of these things, so that people can find out what their why is and do it.
Yeah.
And so he realized that this football, as much as he hated it, was a gift toward helping him fulfill his why. This is why I went through a point where I was cursing my job. I was like, I fucking hate this. I was getting up every day and and I was groaning, oh, not another day. Right. And then I realized that this obscene money that I make is making it possible for my wife to be comfortable in doing the things, helping her fulfill and achieve her own dreams, and making it possible for my kids to fulfill and achieve their dreams. And I've spoken with all of them about why, and why must be the genesis for everything that you do. And so they are operating from their why, but they can because of the money that I make. So I no longer curse. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. If behind me, I'm outside my office, is a fucking swimming pool. I grew up in the hood in Detroit. My kids' normal is my fucking miracle.
Dude, that's so powerful and awesome.
So how dare I curse that which is making provision for others to do great exploits? How dare I curse that? And so I came to this point. You know something? I said, hey, God, universe, source, I'm grateful. It's not what I want to do in the long run, but it makes it possible for others to do something. And eventually, if I am faithful to my why and do not lose sight of the dream, of the vision, of the goal, and stick to the plan, I will have that which I believe. I see my end state and I will walk in this. But what I have to do is, number one, I have to be content with what I'm doing, but not content to the point where I'm willing to relinquish that which I believe my end state to be. There is nothing that will stop me from getting to where I'm going. There's nothing that will stop me from doing what I'm doing. And I will stand on a stage and I will share with people the importance of understanding your why and understanding your identity and understanding how all this contributes to your freedom so that you can live a free, moral, emotional, spiritual, and physical agent in this universe, and that you can have every single thing that you set your heart to if you are willing to dream it, plan it, execute it, and see it as if it were already done.
Dude, man, you know what comes to mind for me is like I'm totally seeing you doing a TED talk on that stuff, man.
You know what? True story. I got this pair of eyeglasses because I said this is what would look good on a TED stage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking for myself, you know, how powerful would it be in the law of attraction if I sat down and wrote up a TED talk and put it together, practiced it, imagined it, did it. I mean, that's what I did. I was really, my life has been an interesting journey to say the least. When I was in the ministry, I was for the group that I was with, I was the signs and wonders guy. People may not believe that, and it's why I can't be an atheist today. I mean, I was the signs and wonders guy, and I would practice having healing meetings and having miracle crusades and preaching and missions, and I did 1,000 times more meetings in my bedroom or my basement than I ever had in public.
Yep.
Right. And that part of my life is over. And I'm in a place where I'm evaluating my whys. I mean, this has been really helpful for me. And I was looking down when you were talking because I was looking up a quote. It was Nietzsche who said, "He who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how."
Mm.
And that's
Wow.
that's what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
And so I thought, I mean, this has helped me. This has brought clarity to me because my why, if I can be honest, my why up until you know and it can change. Life, you go through seasons,
Mm-hmm.
things change. But my why when I got into ministry was to alleviate human suffering on any level I could. It's why I got a degree in psychology.
Yep.
It's why I'm a counselor. It's why I did healing miracle type crusades. People can poke fun at that, they can make fun of that, the healing crusade thing, and there's a lot of bullshit there. I'll be the first to admit it. A whole lot of bullshit and a whole lot of ego. But at the end of the day, for me, I can only speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was about the possibility. If my Bible said I could lay hands on the sick and they could recover, if I had that potential within me to end someone's suffering, then it was worth it to me to try to pursue that.
Yep.
And that was my why. And then, you know, there's all that other stuff that comes with it, which I won't get into. But at some point, I was like, this isn't me anymore. It's like I've got a deeper why. I got something else in there, and I mean, this is so helpful, Derrick, because part of the transition I personally have been in is my why was the gospel, man. My why was, but it wasn't just getting people saved, and it was never about moralizing. It was never about
You know what, man?
controlling.
Let me help you out. Let me say something that's gonna. And I hope this really blesses you. It was never about the gospel. Your thing about helping people alleviate suffering,
Yes.
dude. I've known you on social media for like 3 years and been connected to you for a little over a year,
Hmm.
and that has always been your thing,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell. So
No, yeah,
you
absolutely.
and so like when I talk about my why has never changed.
Yeah.
It's like even when I was preaching, I wanted people to be free of religion, to be free of all this dogmatic bullshit, so that they could really because once you understand who you are, nothing who you are and what your why is, nothing is going to stop you. I mean, you will just be so full of energy, so full of vigor, so full of direction that nothing will stop you. And so dude, it's like your why hasn't changed.
Dude.
And that's the other thing too. See, let me say this too, because you're and I got to say this. First of all, for all of you that are watching and you say, like, if I ask you what your why is, I'll ask people this: what is your why? And they'll say, well, my family, my wife, my kids. Listen, if your why is external,
Mm,
it'll never work.
mm.
Your why has to be something that gets you motivated, because this is you. It that like the prophet Jeremiah, that is fire shut up in your bones. If it's not that, that's not a sufficient why. People say, well, I want to make money, I want to be comfortable, I want to have time. If whatever it is something external, if it's not something that's internal, that lights a fire. Listen, in each and every one of us, and hear me, that we are made of the same shit as stars. This is a scientific, empirical fact. We have the same material makeup as suns, as stars, right? And so the difference between, like for example, the planet Jupiter is 95 point, or no, it's not, sorry, I take that back, is 99.9999998% the same thing as the sun.
Mhm.
But there is something in Jupiter that did not ignite. Jupiter is the star that
Wow.
failed.
This really never was. Wow.
That's what Jupiter is. So you can either be the sun, the center of our or the center of our solar system, or you could be Jupiter, the star that failed to launch.
Mm.
All the material, everything that you need is in you. But the thing that you have to realize is that the catalyst, the ignition, the fuel, the impetus cannot be external. If it's external, it's going to fail. But if you get it inside of you and you say, shit, this is just something I've got to do before my last breath, before I'm wrung dry, before before I'm pushing up daisies, God damn it, I got to get out and do this. And until you get to that point, it's going to elude you, and you'll wonder why here's the thing: you'll either figure out your why or you'll wonder why. I'm gonna stop there.
Dude, that's plague worthy. I'm sorry. Unless people got my comments last week, they won't get that. Daryl Carlson said something last week, and I said, I wanted to say that's plaque worthy, meaning that's a quote that needs to go on a plaque.
Yeah.
But I put the G instead of the Q, and it said plague worthy.
Blakeworthy, yeah. It'll kill you. No.
No, I mean, seriously, like, and how'd you say that? Until you find out your why, you'll wonder why?
Yeah, until you figure out your why, you'll wonder why.
Dude, that needs to go on some people's refrigerators.
Yeah,
I mean,
matter of fact,
seriously.
I'm gonna print that out and put it over my desk.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's extremely, extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And just to elaborate on that. Like I'm thinking about what you said. I grew up in the ghetto in Detroit. My ceiling, so to speak, this isn't how you said it, but it's the way I heard it. My ceiling, not that it's your ceiling, but where you're at right now,
Mhm.
is your kid's foundation, right?
Yeah.
But that makes it personal. Like that's different than doing things for somebody else because of somebody else. In other words, here's what I mean. Like there's people that work jobs they freaking hate, keep themselves limited, and then they use the excuse, I'm doing this for my wife and my kids,
Right.
right? But when you say, I made something of myself that elevated the generations to come, that's different. That's making it personal. That's like I improved myself and I achieved, and because of that achievement and because of that improvement, now that served someone else, in this case, my children, so that my, I put a different foundation under that. That's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Derek. Like it's got to be internally, like you said, that fire shut up in your bones. Man, I feel like I'm babbling, but dude, I mean, you're laying it out tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
this may be the most important broadcast we've ever done,
Wow.
because at the end of the day, you can have resilience, you can have critical thinking, you can work the law of attraction, you can have all these tools, right? Strategy, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a strong why, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then what good is it?
Yep. I think about the great legendary author James Baldwin. And James Baldwin grew up in New York City, and he came to the realization that as a black man in the United States, that he would never realize his dream, that he would never become the author, the poet, the speaker that he was destined to become. So he gathered up all he had and he left and he went to Paris and he spent 10 years there. And he found his voice and he found his why. And when he did, he came back to the United States and he came back swinging. And if you look up James Baldwin, look up some of his quotes, look up some of his writings. Go out on YouTube. There's a video of James Baldwin debating William F. Buckley, the author, speaker, political strategist. And basically, James Baldwin handed Bill Buckley his ass.
That's an accomplishment.
It is an accomplishment
It
because
is.
Buckley was a force of nature.
Yeah, he was.
You may not like him, but he was brilliant, and he the Cato Institute owes a big debt to him and the American Spectator magazine. Big debt. Uh, I actually met William F. Buckley about 30 years ago.
Wow.
Brilliant human being.
Mm-hmm.
And James Baldwin handed him his ass in a public forum. The point that I'm getting at is that you may think that because you're black, because you're a woman, because you're LGBTQ, because you're Latinx, because you're an immigrant, because you're a refugee, that you may believe that greatness will elude you. But I'm here to tell you that if you find your why, if you find your why, not only will success find you, but success will seek you out. And that is where I'll stop.
Well, in the words of MC Hammer, I can't touch that. I can't touch that.
Which MC Hammer, by the way, I got to say this, is one of my old Navy buddies. True story.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't touch that.
Yep.
And I can't add to that. I can't improve on that. Nothing to say.
But yeah, I mean, everybody who's watching this has had a dream. You know, when Dr. King said, "I have a dream," Dr. King had a dream. You do too. Everybody has a dream. We're created to be dreamers. We're created to be visionaries. We're created to be planners, and we're created to be successful. The question is, will you allow the circumstances, the situations, and the people around you? And let me say this is real important. I got to say this too, because I thought about this and I completely forgot about it. But there are people around you who simply will not invest in your dream. They won't share your posts. They won't talk about your book. They won't talk about your videos. But they love you. I mean, and it's not, it's because, see, there's a difference between, there are people who are haters who actually will actively participate against your success. There are some people that they're just around you and they don't share your stuff. They don't participate in your success. Don't let that influence you. You know, because here's the thing. I've learned this, that the best revenge that you can have, and this is revenge that you don't have to actually take. It's not like the Wrath of Khan, where revenge is a dish best served cold. It's not that. But the best revenge is to succeed where no one really gave you a chance of succeeding.
Derrick, dude, you were on fire tonight. I mean, honestly, I know we say this every time. Like, that was the best one. But for me, I can genuinely say from the bottom of my heart, this one is the best one. I feel like I need to pay you for therapy, man.
Dude, you know something? You're an actual therapist, and I'm gonna tell you something, that the time that I get to spend with you, I should be paying you for it.
Dude, Derrick, no, man. I mean, you have no idea. If nobody watches this, you have no idea the benefit and investment you have made in me tonight to help me rethink things, reevaluate things.
Oh, dude, listen, you and I together, we're going somewhere. Individually, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And there are some of you who are watching tonight who have been ardent supporters.
Yes.
And you know, relentless listeners, and I'm gonna tell you something, you're going somewhere too.
Yeah.
You're going somewhere because we're going somewhere, and you're going somewhere just because of you. And I'm gonna tell you something, that from this particular broadcast, I decree and declare
Come on, man. Come on.
that you
Yes.
are going to succeed. You will not die in failure.
Yeah.
And when you make your million, just remember that I like my Rolls Royce in black, and I like my Rolex Daytona in platinum. Just remember that. I'm just throwing it out there, that when you hear that and you hear this and this leads you to your lofty place, just remember those things. And I like my Ferrari's red.
I just last thing I'll say, I want to affirm that because I mean we're sharing some powerful stuff. I mean, we really are. We're sharing powerful things. And if you were not resonating with that, if you were not vibing with that, you wouldn't be taking the time out of your Friday night or whenever to watch this. So I totally concur with Derrick. Like you are a cut above and you're gonna succeed.
Mm-mm. Something, man, I feel like I could go out and slap a bear right now.
Well, fortunately, in Phoenix, you just have to kill a few scorpions, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I could, I could tread on scorpions.
I remember when we moved down there for a brief period, like they told us about like getting a black light or something so you could see the like scorpion. I'm like, scorpions?
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: it's like scorpions. This is an interesting thing because where you will always find scorpions along your baseboards because scorpions don't see very well.
Mm.
They walk by faith and not by. So if you're in the desert, just be careful around your baseboards. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
The moral of the story.
Now in Colorado, we can go in the mountains and slap some bears.
Yeah.
Well, Arizona has mountains and bears too. So what the fuck?
We do. Yeah, we actually do. All I have to do is go up around like Verde Vista and I can find a bear to slap.
Yeah, for sure.
I might just do that this weekend. I go out on a bear slap it. No, I'm gonna leave the bears alone. Bears are just minding their own business. It's just a euphemism, y'all.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything else, Aaron. How about you?
Dude, nothing.
All right. Well, then until next time, y'all, may you be happy, may you be well, and may you be filled with peace. Love y'all.